It's a bit miserable. It's raining today, and I was going to do some stuff on the car, but it's not great weather for it. So I'm going to do this job. I've had this little velvet cushion in the back of the car for ages, and I have 2 cushion inners, but only 1 cushion cover. And I want to make a pair that match without spending any money. First job is going to be get the filling out and then dismantle this after I've got my other project out of the way. Yeah, we're having one of those weekends apparently. This one isn't one that's going to be on the channel because crochet work doesn't really record very well, but I'm currently frogging this down so that I can rebuild it. I've got a whole bunch of stuff going on over here. Yeah, I'll just clear up a bit. I've been digging through the fabric stash to see what I've got that'll work, and I have a plan in place now. I've got all the ingredients and I haven't spent a penny so far. All of the pattern pieces cut out, ready to go, and I'm doing this slightly differently. I'm using up some material that I've got. One is this black flocked, I think it's a polycotton, I'm not entirely sure. The flocking's very unstable on it, so I need to use it up. I've used it for garments and it's not the nicest fabric, but it will do very well for this. 2 squares of that. We've got the 2 squares of red velvet that was the original cushion, and 2 squares of black fur. Salvaged the piping, I'll come to this in a minute, and I was having a tidy up of my various supplies. I found a couple of black zips that are just the right size for these cushions. So that makes putting these together a little bit easier. I was going to do them with sort of like a fold over flap and buttons affair. I don't have to now, which is great. This fabric is going to be used to line the back of the fur. And it'll also help because this is a stretchy fabric, the fur is a stretchy fabric, and my machine likes to have one layer of non-stretchy when I'm sewing stuff together, because otherwise I just can't get the tension right on it and it makes a mess. One of the downsides of the older machines, sometimes they're not keen. With the fur, I've split it on the diagonal. This isn't because I don't have enough fur to do it in complete squares, I just wanted to make use of this piping, because I think if I put the piping through there and have these mirrored, so that the zip will be on the bottom on this edge. We'll have the diagonal line going that way on one cushion, and then it'll go that way on the other cushion. It's sort of, it hints a little bit at the MG interiors and the 80s British Leyland interiors, where you would have a little bit of piping. It just feels like it's on brand, and it uses up this trim here because of course I don't have enough to go around both cushions. First job is to sew 2 of the triangles and the length of piping together. And this can be a little bit tricky because we're doing fur, which I don't really like working with fur, I'll be honest. It's messy and it's not really your friend. And because we're going on the bias as well, that means it's going to want to stretch and move a lot. And I've got to keep track of the piping, which I won't be able to feel very well because of the thickness of this fur. I think I'm going to baste these parts together before I sew them. I wouldn't normally, but I think I'm going to have to. We'll sew these together like this, so we have a little sandwich, and then when you open it out, we'll have the stripe down the middle. And when that's done, we'll put a layer of this on the back. It serves a couple of purposes. One, this can be quite grabby on the back against the cushion material. 2, it will mean that my sewing machine is going to be a bit happier about all of this when I come to sewing everything together. And 3, it just uses up this troublesome fabric. I've pinned the layers together here, so you have the fur and then the piping and then the fur. And the way I did it, because this is a stretchy fabric, I found the centre point and pinned there first and then pinned out. That means that everything stays nice and even as much as possible. Next job is to put a basting or tacking stitch in here. And the first thing to do is just very loosely tie on your thread. Now sometimes with a fabric you can just leave a long tail and sew and it's fine, it's a lot easier to unpick. Unfortunately this fur does not seem to want to grab onto the thread at all, so I do have to tie on a little bit. And then when you do your stitch, I'm doing these quite a lot smaller than I perhaps need to, you just go back and forth, so it's like a running stitch, and you want to pull it snug but you don't need to pull it tight. It's also a good idea to use a contrasting colour thread, because then when you come to pull it out you can see it, and it's a bit easier if your machine sewing has gone over it in any place. The key is just to use the thread to take the place of the pins. It just keeps the fabric a lot more stable as you go. And as you work along you'll end up with just these very coarse stitches. Do that all the way along here, and when you turn it out it will look sewn together, and that will make it a lot easier when you put it through the machine, because all of this will be nice and stable. You've got no pins to worry about, so you can just zip straight along, and when you're finished you just pull the thread out. I've got this one ready for the next stage. I need to do a little bit more basting, so this is what that flocked fabric's for. All pinned, I'm just going to baste around the edge before I sew everything together, because when you have fur like this it gets caught up in the sewing machine and it can give you a bad time. So there's a set way I choose to do these. You can see it's a little bit baggy. This square is slightly larger than the fur, but that's good, because that means when I put the filling in it's going to help it just fill out and give a nice shape. This is the one I've just finished, and you can see it's stretched ever so slightly along the diagonal, so it's not perfectly square, but that's another thing that this lining panel does. It gets it back to a square shape again, and this is just because we've sewn on the bias and everything's stretchy. Normally you would pull out the basting stitches, but because of how close I did them to the edge, they're actually inside the cushion. I'm just not going to bother. I'm going to leave them where they are. They're not going to do any harm. You can't see them from the outside, and when the lining is on there you won't see them from the inside either. Another reason for using this lining is it protects this seam here and helps smooth everything out, because the fur, well, you can sort of see it just sheds everywhere. I have it in my mouth, I have it up my nose. I really dislike working with this sort of material, but I do like how it looks, so I feel like it's worth it. Not much more work after this. Fairly quick, easy project. I'm making more work for myself by using difficult fabrics and putting design elements in I don't particularly need to. I just like having a bit of fun with things like this. I shall baste this one, I shall prepare this one in the same way and baste that, and then we shall be sewing the red velvet and the fur together and putting the zip in. The next job is to put the velvet and the fur sections together, and everything's kind of a little bit stretchy, but because we've got this fabric here which has no stretch in it at all, that helps stabilise that layer, gives my sewing machine an easier time of it. I'll sew up 3 sides on each cushion, being careful to make sure that the diagonal line on them is mirrored. I leave the zip side open because what I prefer to do is put the zip in and then sew the ends, because I can get everything nice and neat and tidy when I do that. Not doing anything special for the zip. They're not going to be hidden with like flaps or anything like that, which you can do because the thickness of this fur is such that you just won't see the zip at all, and it'll always be on the bottom, in theory. Shouldn't need to baste these pieces together. I should be able to just pin them together and very quickly run that up on the machine. Got the two pillowcases here sewn together on three sides, so the bottom of these is actually open. That's important because we need to put the zip in. Before the basting stitches are pulled out, and arguably I could leave them in, they're on the inside, don't show on the outside, but I'll pull them out. You need to put the zip in. Now the reason you leave your basting stitches in, it just makes the furry side a little bit easier to deal with. Open the zip up so that the zip is at the bottom end and just pin it in place. Treat the zip as if this is the face of the fabric and you're treating it like a piece of fabric, just as you did with the bag of the pillow. Once this is sewn in, we can then do the end seams here, which just catch all the edges up, and trim off the corners so it turns out nicely. And then it's really done. Optionally, you could run an overlocker or serger around your edges, or pinking shears, or a whip stitch, which is probably what I'll do, just to stop this fur from, being a nuisance. That's the sewing done on this. Pull out these white stitches, they're just holding all the layers together. And I'm not actually going to bind these edges. I thought I was going to, but everything seems quite stable. And once the cushion's in, yeah, it'll be fine. So I'll just leave that as it is. She's done good again, as always. Very ready for a clean out though. We have a lot of fluff underneath here now. Next challenge then, getting the cushion inside the cover. All turned out pretty nicely. I'm quite happy with how this has gone. We've got the zip in the bottom edge here, which, yeah, this is the problem with fur and zips though. You just have to make sure everything's out the teeth. Go. So that works quite nicely. Now because we've got the zip slightly shorter than the end, it is a little bit harder to get the cushion in, but it's not impossible. Try and find the corners of your cushion. Work them up to the corners of the cover. I mean, you've done cushion covers before, surely. And there we are. A bit of a fluff. And that's one finished cushion. I'm actually really pleased with that. I think that's going to look great in the car. Speaking of, let's get the other one and let's get them in the car where they belong. Well, this was a nice fun project. I'm sat in the back of my car, which is somewhere I very rarely am, and yeah, I really like how these turned out. They're reversible, obviously, so we've got the nice red velvet one over here with the little bit of fluffy black trim around the side, and then on this side we've got the nice black fluffy one with that diagonal stripe down the middle of it. They match the car pretty much perfectly inside, which wasn't on purpose. The cushion that I started with just happened to be the same colour as the vinyl dye that I used to recolour the interior on this car. One of the really fun parts about this is if you have two cushion covers and you like both of them, but you don't want the same on both sides, and you want to very quickly change the look of a room, you can just unpick them and then sew them together so they've got matching opposite sides. And it really helps stretch out the usefulness of something that you've already got, without spending very much money or very much time for that matter. Thank you for joining me for this video. Just a little one really, an easy project, and one that I've been putting off for quite a while for no good reason really. It's mostly that I've had so many other things to do. A little frivolity like this has been just that. It is nice though to have some decent matching cushions in the back of the car. I do know when I've had people in the back, they prefer to have a cushion for some reason, so who am I to argue with that? I've got some, I might as well make some funky ones that match the rest of the car. It is just plain luck that this velvet on these is the same colour as the vinyl inside the car. I did recolour the vinyl in the car, but it wasn't deliberately to match this cushion. It's just how things turned out. Speaking of, if you've not seen the inside of the Princess before, everything in here is standard. It is as BL intended, except for the colour. So for example, the seats were originally just this solid black. For the vinyl as well, I very carefully masked them off and re-dyed them. The dashboard is an original style dashboard. It's only had one extra telltale put in there, and then I just added some silver paint to bring out where chrome trim might have been on a higher spec car. Fresh veneer on the dashboard insert, and that's really it on there. The parcel shelves, which you can't really see at the moment, are actually trimmed in offcuts of the red carpet that I put in the car, where originally they would have been black. So you can make quite a lot of changes on the inside of a car while keeping it completely factory. And I like it. It's fun. And that's what this is all about. Anyway, enough about the Princess. If you want to see more on this, do check out the playlists. Hopefully I'll see you in the next video, which should be next Tuesday at 3 PM as usual. And we're getting closer to that end of year report where I can tell you what it's been like 3 years of doing these videos, and where I'm planning on going in the future. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and check out the description on your way out. All of that's very much appreciated, and there's all kinds of stuff to find. I shall see you all next time.